Good evening, everyone, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, honored guests. My name is Rick Starr. I'm the Sergeant at Arms for the Fairfield Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club. And it's my pleasure to introduce our president, Louis Denbow.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Toastmasters meeting for August 5th, 2014. We meet every Tuesday at 7:45 in the club room at Hy-Vee on Burlington Avenue. The mission of our Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster self-confidence and personal growth. And we have a guest here tonight. Would you like to say why you came?
I actually enjoy watching all of you and talk in front of people. That's something I want to develop I'm trying to develop now, starting now.
All right.
Always speaking, and then I really enjoy watching you guys do it, and sometimes participating myself.
Great. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Our club grows by word of mouth. Who mentioned Toastmasters this week? All right. Excellent. 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 Also, our club is non-discriminatory. We do not discriminate on the basis of race, color, creed, gender, national, ethnic origin, sexual orientation, physical and mental disability, as long as you can perform what needs to be on your own. So now I'd like to turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster for the evening, Monty Condon.
Toastmasters, honored guests, the theme of the meeting tonight is the dog days of summer. I always thought that was a really funny saying. Does anyone know the history behind this saying? Jolene?
Yeah, Sirius, the dog star, rises and sets with the sun at this time of year.
That's right. You're almost right. I cheated and I looked it up on Wikipedia. But Jolene is right. The reason it's called the dog days of summer is that back in ancient times, during Rome, the Romans were the ones that actually first used this term, called dog days. And the reason they called it dog days was that during the hottest part of their summer, the dog star, Sirius, rose at roughly the same time as the sun and followed the sun's precession across the sky. That's no longer true because the equinoxes have changed and drifted over Earth's rotation and whatnot. But it's still called the dog days of summer. That's where the term came from. There's a wonderful quote here I'd like to share. Youth is in a grand flush, like the hot days of ending summer, and pleasant dreams that thrall your spirit, like the smoky atmosphere that bathes the landscape of an August day. That was from a gentleman named Donald Mitchell. I thought that was very visual and poetic. But moving on, it's my job to introduce the role players tonight. Our timer tonight, stepping in for Rhea Saint, is actually Diane Dembaum. Diane.
My job is to keep track of the time. Which you speak, every project has a certain time. So for table topic, it's 1 to 2 minutes. So the green light will go on at 1 minute, the yellow light will go on at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and then the red light will go on at 2 minutes. We have an extra 30 seconds to wrap it up. Tonight's speeches, we have a 5 to 7 minute speech. So the green light will go on at 5 minutes, the yellow light will go on at 6 minutes, and the red light will go on at 7 minutes. Then there's an evaluation section. Those last 3 minutes, so the green light goes on at 2 minutes, the yellow light goes on at 2 minutes 30 seconds, then the red light goes on at 3 minutes, and you get that 30 seconds to wrap up. Back to the speeches, there are 2 6 to 8 minute speeches, so you'll see the green light go on at 6 minutes, yellow light at 7 minutes, red light at 8 minutes. And I'll give a report at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Next up is our grammarian, who is Jolynn.
The role of the grammarian is to expand your vocabulary by introducing a word which you may or may not know. Tonight's word is dearth, which means a lack or deficiency, or scarcity or shortage. And used in a sentence, the afternoon felt all the hotter due to a dearth of ant. And I will also be listening for bad use and good use of the English language, and I will make a report at the end of the evening.
Thanks, Jolynn. Our off-counter tonight is Art Atkinson. Art? Some surprises.
Some surprise, not having looked properly at the agenda. My role as the out-counter is to notice and record anyone's use of filler words while they're speaking. Filler words examples might be and, so, well, words that are used to fill space and make sound while a person thinks that don't actually contribute to the communication. I'll keep a tally and give a brief report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Art. Seems like you were born to do that. Dan Craig is our general evaluator tonight. You'll hear from him later in the meeting. He is also our ballot leader. He's double filling roles tonight. Thank you, Dan. Towards the end of the night, we'll also hear from Will Burns, our joke master. Now it's time for the appetizer of the meeting, table topics. And in charge of table topics tonight is Louis Denbaugh.
So table topics. Why table topics? There's no dearth of opportunities in our life to use table topic skills. You're in a job interview. Someone says, hey, I see all your grades and the things that you've done up till now, but what are your hobbies? Or you're at a party and somebody wants to get to know you and they say, hey, where did you go to school? Tell me something interesting about you. So these are what we practice here in Toastmasters. These are our extemporaneous talks. And I've written down 5 rules for table topics. 1, you've got 30 seconds after the question is posed to you to think about what you want to say. Organize your thinking. Speak for at least 1 minute and no more than 2.5 minutes. You can answer the question directly, or you can segue into another topic. It is a mini speech, so try if you can to have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And the most important rule for table topics, have fun with it. So who would like, and I am sticking with the theme of Dog Days of Summer, who would like to be our first volunteer for table topics tonight? Don't be shy. Come on up, Jolynn. No choices tonight, by the way. I'm digressing from that. I'm just giving you the questions. How do you like to cool off during the dog days of summer? How do you like to cool off in the dog days of summer?
As as some of you know, I grew up in Texas. The dog days in Texas are a bitch. That's the expression. They're really hot. Temperatures over 100 every day. When I was a little girl, my mother would not let us go outside between lunchtime and 4 or 5 o'clock when it started to cool off. So I was not allowed to get used to being hot, being outside. We had an over air-conditioned house that, my dad always kept it like 65 degrees in the house. And so I never had a problem cooling off. I was often too cold in the house. And my sisters and I would throw Sears catalogs and telephone books over the floor vents to try to keep the rooms not quite so cold. And then my father would get angry because we were making the air conditioner work too hard because it was still trying to cool those rooms that weren't cool enough. So cooling off in the summertime was not ever much of a problem, but I do remember when I visited my grandmother, whenever we would visit my dad's mother, she would give us lemonade and watermelon on quilts in the backyard. And we would sit on the ground in her backyard and watch until the fireflies started to come out. And those are some very cozy family memories. That's how I remember my hot summer days.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jolynn. Our next volunteer, Jyotiraj. Tell us about one of your hottest dog days of summer. Tell us about one of your hottest dog days of summer.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. It was May 31st, 2003. It's in Chennai, India. I was in the top floor and the roof watching, the zinc roof, and the temperature was 45 degrees centigrade. And that was the hottest day in last 50 years. That was a record-breaking temperature. It was, the heat was so intense, I was burning up. I was not able to breathe. It was too intense. And all of a sudden, the power went out. So there was no fan. I didn't have any AC. Nothing. So I grabbed 3 of my towels, soaked into the water, and put it on the window. And put the fan outside the window. And we have this battery fan. I put that battery fan outside the window. We put 8 batteries on this on old days, and put the fan outside the window and blew the towel so that I can get cool here. I brought the big bucket in the room, pour water on that, and I sat on that. It's too hot, so hot, and then I couldn't resist it. It was too much, so I called my landlord, but he didn't receive the phone. I don't know where he was. I ran into one of the departmental store where I can get the shelter because it was very, very cold. I came back from there when the temperature went below 35, and then I called my owner, and he came with a big chunk of hay, rice hay. He came with a big chunk of hay, and he put it all on over the roof, and he poured this ice cubes on it, and poured a lot of water for 2 hours. And after doing that for 1 hour, it cooled down, and that was my hottest day experience in my life. It was really a very, very fun day.
Did a quick calculation in my head, 45 degrees centigrade is about 113, 115. Yes. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Who is our next volunteer?
All right.
Do you want to escape the dog days of summer, or do you embrace the dog days of summer?
Hello, everyone. I do want to escape the dog days of summer. I grew up in a city near the Caribbean. Every day, it wasn't as hot as Texas, but it was actually really, it was really humid, like here. It's like having 11 months of Iowa summer. Just, 11 months and then 1 month, just a little bit of breeze and cool down maybe 80 degrees. But the rest of the time was 95, 100 with 85% humidity. So when I decided to move to Fairfield, I knew that there was a change of temperatures, and I never embraced the heat, even living there near the Caribbean. I always liked the beach. It was always, every Monday, would go and drive my bike to the beach. That's when I actually did embrace the summer. But it was summer every Monday, every Sunday, every day of the week, every day of the month, for 11 months of the year. To answer your question, I never embraced. I like the winter, actually. I like to shovel snow. I really enjoy it. At the same time, I like summer because we can go out and have fun and do fun things in the heat. But at the same time, I don't like to embrace it very much.
Make sure you give me your phone number before January.
Oh, okay.
So I can get you to shovel my snow.
Sure.
I want to make you happy.
Oh, yeah.
We have time for at least one more. One more brave soul. Come on up. What do you like to eat or drink during the dog days of summer? What do you like to eat or drink during the dog days of summer?
Good evening, Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. My name is Samantha Young, and after spending the last 8 years in Hawaii, I have grown accustomed to ripe fruit. And after spending this last winter taking in the heaviest diet I've ever could remember, I started this summer realizing that anything light, fresh, and contained a lot of water was what would fill me, satiate me for this long dog days of summer. And over the break, I just came back from my summer break. I had time to spend with pineapples and nectarines and plums and peaches and cherries, and any time that they weren't perfectly ripe and soft and moist and ready for me to bite into, I would put them into the little paper bag and wrap it up. And I don't know if you guys do that, but that's a perfect way to get them to the perfect place so that you can enjoy the wonderful, moist fruit that can be offered. Thank you.
to the end of our table topics time. Madam Timer.
Everyone qualified. The names are Jolynn, Jyoti Raj, Gilberto, and Samantha.
So everyone, please vote for the best table topic speaker tonight. I'd like to turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster.
Thank you, Louis. So that was the appetizer. How did it taste? Delicious? Great. Well, you're going to love the entrees then. We got 3 entrees tonight. First up is John Miller. And evaluating, sorry. Oh, let's rewind that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Stephanie Chambers is our Table Topics evaluator. So this is to allow all our Table Topics participants to get feedback.
Just wanted to speak while it's still fresh in our minds about how everyone coped with Lewis's hot summer day table topics. And I think I could say that all round there was no dearth of stories. I love the way everyone used a lot of their own personal experiences to answer the question. They really seemed to be very lively in terms of details and ideas, so it was great. First off, we had Jolynn, who gave us a great story about cooling off in summer, and I loved the details. I can see the Sears catalogue sitting on top of the vent trying to keep the coolness out. So that was really great. My only suggestion for you is that maybe you could use the stage a little bit more deliberately. Maybe you seem to have 2 aspects to your talk. First was at home being cold, and maybe you could use this side of the stage for that. And then when you're drinking lemonade and on the blanket, you could have used this side of the stage. That just would have given you an opportunity to make eye contact with people on the other side of the room and made it a bit more interesting. But other than that, I love the stories. And Jyoti Raj, I can see you sweltering on an incredibly hot day, and I really love the detail once again. My suggestion to you is that maybe you could slow down a little bit, and when there's something you can do a gesture for, like really sit in that bucket, you know, it might make it a bit more dramatic and more entertaining for everyone. But other than that, I love the stories. It's really great. Gilberto, you're our third speaker. I also liked your use of detail. And things like the fact that you love shoveling snow, something we weren't expecting you to talk about the heat of summer, which was great. I suppose the only thing I felt that you could have been a little bit more decisive. You know, I felt it just could have been, maybe if you took a bit more time to plan some sort of conclusion, it may have made it a bit more decisive, or at least try to make the ending decisive. That would make it better. But other than that, it was great. Samantha, I enjoyed your stories about fruit, maybe hungry. I could see, I could taste all those wonderful fruits you've been enjoying. My suggestion for you is that, similar to Gilberto, is that if you plan, you did take the time, so I can't criticize you for taking the time, but if you can think of the ending, that helps. Because I felt that it was really great momentum, and I love the tip about how to make a fruit ripe by the bag, but I felt then after that, I felt like you ran out of steam a little bit, so try and save something for the end. So, but overall it was great, so I really enjoyed the tabletop this time.
Thank you, Stephanie. Now it's time to move on to the main event speeches. First up is John Miller, and to introduce John is Rhonda Whitaker, who's going to be his evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests,
and viewers at home. John Miller is from southern Minnesota. He was born and raised in Windham, educated at the Air Force Academy and the University of Scranton. He was employed in the field of cultural diversity with the U.S. Air Force in New York and did social work. He worked in the Pennsylvania prison as a substance abuse and teacher. I'm not sure what ABE means, John.
Oh, adult basic education.
Adult basic education teaching. And Virginia, also helping prisoners with substance abuse. He moved to Iowa in 2010, planning to return to the field of cultural diversity here. He's married, he has 3 children, and one works at Everybody's, the tall guy with curly red hair. This is a fact-finding report in an advanced manual. It's number 4. The objectives are to prepare a report on a situation, event, or problem of interest to the audience. He will deliver sufficient factual information in his report so the audience can base valid conclusions on a sound decision about it. The title of his speech is Pondering Proverbs. Please help me welcome John Miller.
Thank you kindly, Rhonda. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home, today I will provide a fact-finding report on the nature and use of Proverbs, including a brief reference to the biblical source of some of them. Finally, I will illustrate a number of popular proverbs by weaving them into my talk. Following the speech, I'll pass out Proverbs to you so you don't have to take notes. You can just take home these papers and begin practicing them right away. According to the Encyclopedia Americana, proverb is a brief or pithy, I like that word, saying that usually points to a moral or expresses some wisdom, some essential truth based on observation or experience. In order for Proverbs to be remembered, they usually rely on metaphor, rhyme, or alliteration. Let me illustrate. Metaphor: too many cooks spoil the broth. Too many leaders or too many people involved in a project can mess it up. Rhyme: rain before 7, fair before 11. Meaning the weather. And alliteration: robbing Peter to pay Paul, referring to taking money from your left pocket to pay a debt in your right pocket. It really doesn't help so much. Proverbs were derived from some years of reflection by usually the more senior members of a particular community. Sometimes they were artistic creations. To assist you in visual impact of these proverbs I'm going to share with you, let me add the garb of a wise sage and staff.
Oh.
There we go. Now I am about 130 years old. Of course, Proverbs is a book of sayings in the Bible. It's aimed at the young and uninstructed. If you could advance, please. There's my garb. He even has a nicely trimmed beard, just like I do. If you would advance it once more, please, Dan. These are the young and the uninstructed are about to be recipients of the wisdom of the Proverbs. According to Eerdman's Handbook on the Bible, Proverbs are wisdom distilled into short, sharp phrases, dramatic contrasts, and unforgettable scenes from life. Probably the most eclectic or broad-based of biblical books, the book of Proverbs itself has actually drawn on Egyptian non-biblical teachings in structuring a lot of its contents. The Book of Kings records Solomon as one of the favorite sages of the Book of Proverbs, who has uttered roughly 3,000 of them. And they have then come down to us from as old as 1000 BC, 3,000 years ago. Among Solomon's popular proverbs, a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is a sorrow to his mother. That is chapter 10. Another one, hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. Again, chapter 10. Most famously, you may have heard, pride goes before a fall, from chapter 16. Often Proverbs show a relation between two factors, an act usually and its consequence. For example, if you could advance, yeah. Train up a child in the way he should go, and he shall not depart from it. You will also find Proverbs now in everyday print and conversation. I was reading the newsletter for the American Swedish Society in nearby Swedesburg, Iowa, and came across a couple of proverbs there. Better to suffer for a truth than be rewarded for a lie. Also, one of the most important trips a person can make is meeting the other person halfway. Now let me illustrate some other proverbs so that you too can have fun with positioning them in your vocabulary, your talks, your writings with surgical precision. A few weeks ago I gave a talk on idioms. An idiom, for those who weren't here, is an expression peculiar to a people or to a region of the country. The meaning of an idiom is often hidden, but for most cases, the meaning of the proverb kind of wraps itself around the reader or listener. It becomes fairly obvious usually. For example, if you could advance again, Dan, they say, an apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Okay? And my father is the tree, and I am the apple here, and he enjoyed a study of English expressions just as I do. Also, I could point out in this case another proverb, still waters run deep, meaning that a quiet person often has a great depth of character, which applies in this case. Throughout our history, if you could advance again, Dan, many such proverbs from our nation's past have emerged. How to do justice to all of them in a short speech. Here, surely, to quote another proverb, necessity is the mother of invention. I will touch on a few significant ones of historical and current benefit. As George Santayana said, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So these historical proverbs are very useful to us. Some of you are visitors from foreign countries. Since Americans use proverbs in their speech, you can as well, because, remember the proverb, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So weave them into your speech and your conversation and talks. And some of you, let's say, are no spring chickens. Okay? I'm impressed that you came as well, despite the proverb, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Clearly you don't buy that. Yet I realize that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That is, I can't force you to use proverbs. Choose to do so when you're comfortable. Remember that discretion is the better part of valor. Another proverb. In other words, use them with some forethought. Speaking of horses, never look a gift horse in the mouth. In other words, don't be critical of a gift. Here I am giving you all this helpful information about proverbs. So don't criticize me unless you're giving feedback at the end of my talk. I would welcome that. In addition, use proverbs with discrimination. That is, don't cast your pearls of wisdom before swine, those who can't appreciate them. And although President Harry Truman said, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, that is, in this case, don't listen to the proverbs if they offend you, nevertheless, time does heal all wounds. That is to say, you'll get over it. So, I do know, however, you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar, which is to say that proverbs of inspiration may be more well received than those of criticism. Some of these proverbs you may think are kind of strange or wacky. Don't use those. But don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. That is, don't reject all because you don't like some. Now I'm hopeful that these proverbs will prove useful to you, but I'm not going to count my chickens before they're hatched. That is, I'm not going to count on you becoming favorably impressed with these, but time will tell. Knowing that actions speak louder than words, I will wait and see how you've learned and applied what I have here. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That is to say, it takes more than a brief Toastmasters talk on Proverbs to make a significant impact on your grasp of them. I could have just given you a list of Proverbs and said, use them. I think it's a more benefit to have There was a mistake made in my time. I had specified 10 to 12 minutes. And 10 to 12. Yes.
We'll talk after.
Okay. Anyway, I have 2 more minutes to refresh you with the next time we get together. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. And welcome back. We're ready for our second speech of the evening. And to introduce our next speaker is Jyoti Raj Adhikari. Jyoti.
Rick Starr is doing his third project from Advanced Communication Series, Speaking to Inform. The objectives of this project are: 1. To prepare a demonstration speech to clearly explain a product, process, or activity. 2. To conduct the demonstration as a part of speech delivered without notes. Rick has been a member of the Golden Speaker Toastmaster Club for about a year. He has earned the Competent Communicator and Advanced Communicator Bronze Awards, and is working slowly but surely on the Competent Leader Award. Rick is also a founding member of the Tech Masters Toastmaster Club at Cambridge Investment Research, a company in Fairfield. Rick is currently serving as the president of the Tech Masters Club. The title of Rick's speech is 3-Ball Jogging. Help me welcome Rick for his speech.
Thank you, Jyoti. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. Who likes juggling? Who would like to learn how to juggle? Almost everybody. I have 3 good reasons why you should learn to juggle. The first, juggling is fun. If you're down in the dumps, if you're blue, juggle and it'll put a big smile on your face. The second, juggling is healthy. Looking for exercise? Juggling is great exercise. Juggle and you'll be in the best shape of your life. And the third, people like jugglers. Looking to meet people? Learn to juggle and you'll have lots of new friends. Ladies and gentlemen, today is your lucky day. I have a foolproof, simple, easy-to-learn process that anyone can use to learn to juggle in 5 minutes. Well, 5 to 7 minutes. Plus or minus 30 seconds. But before I start the lesson, I'd like to lay down the 3 ground rules of juggling. It's funny how things seem to come in threes. For example, there are 3 kinds of people in the world. Those who understand math and those who don't. Where's Tom Trainer when I need him? All right, on to the ground rules of juggling. The first ground rule of juggling is don't use a bouncy ball. Yep. When you drop a ball, it lands on the ground, rolls away. You'll spend half the time on your hands and knees reaching under the furniture trying to find the ball. What you should use is a beanbag. Beanbag is about the right weight, fits your hand nicely. And when you drop it, just bend down and pick it up. The second rule of juggling, and I've learned this the hard way, don't juggle in front of breakable objects. Don't do it. The third rule of juggling, perhaps the most important, the rubber nose. An integral part in learning to juggle. So are we ready for the lesson?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Don't yell, I'm right here. We'll start out with 1 ball. 1 ball juggling. And the reason we start out with 1 ball is the secret of juggling is no matter how many balls you're juggling, you're only throwing and catching 1 at a time. So we'll start with 1 ball. You start with your feet slightly spread apart for good balance. Your hands about waist level. You put the ball in your dominant hand. If you're left-handed, put it in your left hand. If you're right-handed, put it in your right hand. Take the ball, throw it from one hand to the other. You take it and throw it back to the other hand. Do this a few times and you've mastered 1 ball juggling. When you throw the ball, throw it about eye level, because when you're throwing multiple balls, it's easy to watch them all without moving your head up and down. During the demonstration, I might throw the ball a little higher, just so you can see it. So go home, we practice this, we have 1 ball juggling down. The next step, some of you may have anticipated, 2 ball juggling. 1 ball in one hand, the other ball in the other hand. As I said, when you're juggling, no matter how many balls, you're only throwing 1 ball at a time. So when you throw 2 balls, you throw the first one. While it's in the air, you throw the second one. So throw 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. It's simple. Another point is that when you're throwing the balls, you're not throwing them at the same arc, you're throwing at a slightly different arc. They're offset a little bit. That way the 2 balls don't crash into each other. Okay, on to the final step of learning to juggle. Start with 2 balls in the dominant hand, 1 ball in the other hand. Throw 1 ball in the air, another, like that. And as you can see, you're still only throwing 1 ball at a time. 1, 1, 1, 1. So once you have 3 ball juggling down, as you can see, it's very easy to learn. There's a lot of tricks, a lot of variations you can do. So ladies and gentlemen, you're on your way to becoming jugglers. Go home, practice, have fun, and juggle.
Take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. Viewers at home, welcome back. It is my pleasure to call up Jean Simonton-Craig to introduce our final speaker for the evening. Jean?
Our next speaker is Art Atkinson. He's going to be doing a project number 2, Let's Get Personal, from the Advanced Communication Manual called Storytelling. His objectives are to learn the elements of a good story and to create and tell an original story based on a personal experience. Art Atkinson joined Golden Speakers in 2005. He has been the Vice President of Public Relations, the Treasurer, and the Secretary of this club. He is stepping up his speaking game after several years on the sidelines. I don't know if being an officer is being on the sidelines, but in any case, with a goal to finish at least Advanced Communicator Bronze this year. Tonight he's presenting project number 2, as we've mentioned, a personal story entitled Mystery Woman at the Dorsey. In this project, he is going to tell a story based on his personal experience, and he's going to be creating clear characters, setting, and providing vivid descriptions. Please help me warmly welcome Art.
On March 13, 2013, I met a mystery woman outside the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. I spoke to her for less than 2 minutes. She gave me something. I don't know her name. I have never seen her again. Why she gave me what she gave me is a mystery, and it's a good one. Good evening, Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. In March a year ago, Sue and I took a 9-day trip to Paris. The first 4 days we were tourists, and we were doing what we love to do, which is go look at artwork in museums. And the last 5 days were our company's annual Global Leadership Conference. We left the Midwest from Chicago O'Hare, complete with Midwest winter gear, coats, scarves, gloves, everything. And we arrived in Paris to an absolutely spectacular spring, sunny, shirt sleeve day. Everybody was out in the parks, on the sidewalks, in the cafes. We walked all over the place in our shirt sleeves, thinking, glad we don't need the winter gear. The next day, however, was cloudy and considerably cooler. The day after that, it was nasty, rainy weather. And by Tuesday the 12th, it was sleeting and windy, and a huge winter storm was moving in. We were very glad we had the Midwest winter gear. That day we planned to visit the Museum d'Orsay, famed for, among other things, an incredible exhibit of its Impressionist paintings. We were going to spend the entire day there and have lunch at a famous restaurant in the museum. So we picked the metro station that would lead us off closest as possible to the museum entrance. But it was still 3 very, very long blocks from our metro station to the entrance to the museum. And 2 of those very long blocks were a wall. The size is 4 stories high and 2 blocks long, featureless brick wall. This is an enormous building. It was the residence of a minor nobleman at one time, and it got turned into a train station, so you can imagine how big and long it is. The sidewalk along this building for 2 blocks was a construction zone. Chain link fences, piles of gravel, broken pine trees, plywood sheets, just a makeshift sidewalk pushed halfway out into the boulevard that's right here, full of traffic whooshing along. As we're walking into the sleet with our collars up, sleet coming at us, we're picking our way through this construction zone. We're about a block away from the entrance down there, and a woman is coming the other direction towards us. And she's dressed nondescriptly, kind of shabbily. About 5 feet in front of where we're walking, she stops and stoops and picks up something off the ground and hands it to me and says, "Monsieur, vous avez perdu cette bague." And I replied, rather suspiciously, "No, I've never seen this. This isn't mine. Give it back to her." And she said in broken English, No, you dropped it. I saw you drop it." I said, "No, this is not mine. This is not mine. I hadn't really even walked as far as where you picked it up yet. I can't have dropped it." Several more interchanges like this, her insisting that it's mine, and me looking at it, I've never even seen this thing before. Finally, she relented. She went on her way. We turned up our collars and proceeded a few more steps, and then tap, tap, tap on my shoulder. Here she is again, saying, "No, monsieur, you must have this. This is yours. I want you to take it." And she hands me this, a heavy, golden-colored man's ring. And I said, "But no, you found it. You keep it." And she says, No, you can take this to a jeweler or a pawn shop. You can get money for this." I said, "Why don't you do that? You're the one who found it." And she said, "Sir, I am an evangelist. I need money for food. Can you give me some money? You could take this and get money from a jeweler." And I said, "Now I understand. What a setup. She probably has a pocket full of these things. And I'm just the latest gullible person." So Sue is tugging on my sleeve saying, give her something. And so I check my wallet and I have a €5 note and I have a €20 note, which at the time were worth about $7 and $28. And Sue says, no, not the 5. Give her the 20. So I give her the €20 note and I put the ring in my pocket. We turn up our collars and we continue on with sleet coming down. We go to the museum. We have a fabulous day seeing the most radiantly beautiful artwork, eating a fabulous lunch. The snowstorm gets more and more intense and it finally shuts down all of Western Europe, airports, trains, everything. At night at the hotel room, I take the ring out of my pocket and I just put it in the luggage and forget about it. We have the rest of the week in Paris. 2 weeks later, here in Fairfield, Sue is unpacking, and she pulls out the ring and says, "You were going to find out about this." I said, "Oh yeah, my bright idea. I call my friend Ron Kerr from Toastmasters. He knows about this kind of stuff. I'll ask him." So I call him up, and he says, "All right, I'm out of town." He said, "Just take it right down to Americus. They'll put it under a microscope. They'll tell you what you've got." So I go down to Americus, fully expecting that they're going to look at it and break into gales of laughter, saying, "Oh, you got one of those! They make them by the truckload in factories in China." That's what I'm expecting. And I take it to Jeff, and he looks at it, but he doesn't say that. He says, "Well, let's put it on the microscope." And he looks at it. He says, "Come here, take a look at this." He says, "Look inside. See what it says, 18K? He says, "It would be highly illegal to stamp that on this if it were not 18-karat gold." He says, "Let's weigh it." He puts it on the scale, weighs it. He says, "Based on the weight and the spot price of gold, what you have here is about $300 worth of gold." And he says, "I know a place where you can go in town probably right now and get $150 for it. And it's not a finely made ring, but if you were to ask me to make a ring like this, $2,000. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Friends and I have spun out theory after theory about what was she up to. Still haven't got a good answer. It's one of those great mysteries. But am I going to sell this ring? No way. First of all, it fits. Second of all, I keep it as a reminder that even a shabbily dressed stranger can bring a blessing into my life, even if it's under very suspicious circumstances. Thank you.
So 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. Welcome back. We've had no dearth of some good speeches tonight. We had a wise sage expounding upon Proverbs. We had a jovial clown teaching us how to juggle. And lastly, we had a noir mystery set in Paris. The time has come to vote for best speaker. Madame Timer, did all our speakers qualify?
The one speaker did not qualify. The two that did, Rick Starr and Art Atkinson qualified.
Rick Starr and Art Atkinson.
Yes.
Let's take a minute to vote. Voting is done. It's now time to move on to our evaluation section. To evaluate our first speech is Rhonda Whitaker.
Thank you, Monty. Hello, Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. We had another excellent report from John on how to use speech. I'm sorry that it wasn't given 2 more minutes because we missed the conclusion, which would have given us why would we want to use Proverbs, I expect, and we could make a valid conclusion for ourselves about why Proverbs are important in our speech. I personally would like to comment on this because under objectives it says 10 to 12 minutes, but the schedule said 6 to 8, and I thought, well, surely this has been taken care of ahead of time, and I should have mentioned it at the beginning, then we could have cleared that up right away.
Yeah, I didn't think of it either. I didn't read the sheet. So.
Yeah, so when in doubt, say something. That's my comment on this. When you read objectives, when in doubt, say something. Like it's about time. Right. Proverbs. Why do we use Proverbs? Only wise men use Proverbs. I liked the fact that John had his robe and his staff. Like a wise man, the Proverbs have been used throughout history, and actually John could have come out with his staff and demonstrated a little bit like Moses, pointed his staff to make a point about some type of proverb. There were many amazing examples of Proverbs. I think John used the Bible. He had biblical quotes. I'm sure there was computer research on these and his own personal life experience. It was quite a rapid fire of Proverbs. I would have liked to see John come up to someone in the audience and say something to them that made it more personal, somehow, so that there was something personal to grasp onto with these Proverbs, because they do have a poignant or emotional aspect to them that makes us remember them. And if there's no physical interaction or no interaction with the audience, we lose that value of why it's poignant, why it's pithy, why it's concise, to the point, and why it hits home with someone. I love Proverbs. I love the Bible, and I love other wise men who use Proverbs, and I personally don't use many Proverbs because I've been trying to say exactly what I mean. And that might be to my disadvantage, because if I did say something that was poignant and got the point across to somebody else so that they could understand what I was saying, that would be a plus. Visual aids, the robe made speech interesting. The slides were concise. They were easy objects to view. They were gentle and positive relationship pictures, soothing to the audience. I liked that part. This was something for us to be gentle with ourselves about instead of get all hyped up with something from the news or NPR. So we ran out of time and we lost the valuable conclusion points, but I think it was an excellent speech and I look forward to hearing more from you, John. And that concludes my comments.
Thanks, Rhonda. Welcome back. And it's time for our reports from our role players tonight. First up, our timer, Diane.
All right. Hello again, everyone. Table topics. Jolynn, 1 minute 22. Joe T. Raj, 2 minutes 27. Gilberto, 1 minute 49 seconds. And Samantha, 1 minute 39 seconds. For our speeches, John Miller came in at 10 minutes and 18 seconds. Rick Starr at 5 minutes and 56 seconds. And Art Atkinson, 8 minutes 22 seconds. Evaluators, Stephanie Chambers, 3 minutes 12 seconds. Rhonda Whitaker, 3:23. Jyoti Raj, 3 minutes 19. And Jean Simon D. Craig, 3 minutes and 28 seconds. That's my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Marion, Jolene.
Well, I was pleased to hear 3 people use the word dearth during the course of the evening, Louis, Stephanie, and Monty. That was very gratifying, thank you. Samantha said she had time to spend with pineapples. I thought that was a lovely way of putting it, time to spend with pineapples. I thought it was beautiful. And I like the way John said we would learn to insert proverbs into your speech with surgical precision. I love the way that signifies that we'll always have the right proverb for the right occasion. I like proverbs too, and I think it's a nice way to think of using them very precisely. And Art, I loved your list of dreadful obstacles that you had to pass on that sidewalk with the traffic pushing by. I thought it was very picturesque imagery. Also, you talked about gales of laughter that you imagined coming from the jeweler that was going to appraise your ring. And Monty, I love that you called our story a noir mystery. I thought that was very apt. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jolene. Now we're going to hear from our awe counter, Art Atkinson.
Tonight was definitely brought to us by the word and. Lois did a so and an and. Jolene, an a so and an and. Jyoti Raj, an 2 so's and an and. Gilberto, 3 ums, a so, a but, and an and. Samantha, 2 us, 2 ums, 2 ands. John Miller, a but, 2 ands. Stephanie Chambers, a you know, a so, but, and 2 ands. Rhonda, pretty clean, just an somewhere. Rick, clean. Myself, if we believe Lewis, 2 so's, a but, and 10 ands. Monty, I have him clean. Diane, clean. And Jean, I'm not sure. I was so completely focused on her content, I don't know what was there. Probably nothing. That's my report.
Thank you, Art. Do we have a joke from our joke master this evening?
I can do a quick.
Let's hear it.
Go, Will. We need to show
Okay, it's not proverbs, it's witty kind of quips or turns of phrase. So there's an old saying here about Sir Winston Churchill, one of the former prime ministers of Great Britain, okay, and George Bernard Shaw, the famous playwright. Allegedly this happened, I can't confirm it tonight. Shaw had supposedly written a new play, and sent Churchill 2 tickets to the opening night performance, along with a note reading, "Here are 2 tickets to my new play. Bring a friend if you have one." Churchill replied, "Sorry, but I can't make it to the opening night performance. Please send me tickets to the second one, if there is one."
Historian Toastmaster Will Burns. Now to evaluate the evaluators and also the meeting, I'm going to call up our general evaluator this evening, Daniel Perry.
Hello, Toastmasters. It was a great meeting. I'm going to give 2 general comments first. First, I'd like to appreciate everyone kind of pulling the room together out of the chaos that existed when we got here. Good flexibility on everyone's part. Also, I noticed, and I'm sure you all did too, how good the intros were given by the evaluators for the speakers, and I think we owe some kudos to Lewis for emphasizing that we need to be strong with those. I thought that was quite noticeable. Now, as far as the evaluations, first, Stephanie did a very nice job evaluating table topics. For each speaker, she had a good appreciation. She let us know that she quite enjoyed what they said. It's a good vibe to do that.
Yeah.
One suggestion that I had, I think for Gilberto, you suggested that he think of a more decisive conclusion. And I thought, well, maybe you should give us an example, which is pretty hard to do, but that might be a plus. The other suggestion I have for you is to perhaps try for a broader range of things to compliment people on. It turned out to be, for most everybody, those were great stories. And they were. But if you could talk a little bit more about technique also, that might be a plus. But a very nice job. It's a great thing to rip through all those speakers and say something good and give a suggestion. It's a hard thing to do, and you did it well. Rhonda's evaluation of John Miller, another very nice evaluation. She began with appreciation. She said, another excellent report from John on the use of language, something of that sort. I really want to compliment you on giving some very strong suggestions. You told him to demonstrate with his staff, to step up to someone and personalize the problem. Those were very specific and very good. I thought the only suggestion for you would be, there was a little section where you digressed into how you enjoy Proverbs, and that you don't use them as much as you ought to. So it's probably better to keep going on about John. Then Jyoti with Rick, very nice job. You really pointed out a lot of things that he did well. Of course, he did a whole lot of things well, but you were very observant. For example, you pointed out how he asked questions of the audience. He asked the audience what they wanted to know, and then gave them the opportunity to learn. You had a good recommendation about pacing. I thought it was a little funny. You said, I have only one recommendation, pacing. The second thing. So I know we're back to the Marx Brothers again. The other suggestion I have for you is, I thought that when you said at the end, the speech was good, but it could have been much more, much more, much more. It was a good, strong point. I thought it was a little too pointed to end on. So I'll end on that point for you. Then there was Gene evaluating art, as usual. What can you say? Here. Gene gave nice appreciation. She's a master at demonstrating. She showed us through demonstration many of the things that art did well. The only suggestion was you you cut the time so close. I think you demonstrated a few too many iterations, and as you got towards the end, you're watching the red light, which I'm doing too. Your voice was speeding up. So I felt like we were heading for the finish line.
That time of the evening for the rewards. First up, table topics. Jolene. Evaluator. Who's the best evaluator? Gene, Simon, and Craig. Best speaker. Art. Now, one last thing before I turn it over to our president. As VP of Education, I am responsible for making the agenda and for scheduling the speakers. And there was a miscommunication tonight between the timing for one of the speakers, and it's definitely was partially it falls on my shoulders. So, John, to you personally, I know how much time you spent preparing your speech. You were giving a great presentation. I know it must be really frustrating to have your time cut short like that, and that would throw me off too. So I want to personally offer my apologies for that.
Thanks, Mike.
You're using an older manual. The times in the new Toastmaster system are different. You had sent me an email. I remembered it after you mentioned it, but I'd misplaced it because I think we rescheduled your speech a couple times. But still, I could have wrote it down. I could have did it better. I could have communicated with you better. So I want to apologize for that, John.
Thanks kindly, Mark.
Thank you. And with that said, John, I want to give you 1 minute to stand up and tell us how your speech would have ended had we had the time, because I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Boy. Okay.
So if you can just do that very quickly.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, there are three elements to a lot of proverbs: metaphor, rhyme, and alliteration. Looking over a lot of what I shared with you, very powerful with metaphor. One, for example, I didn't share was fishing. I'm sorry, not that. You can give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a man how to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. To say that in some other words just loses the impact. Train somebody and you don't have to take care of them the rest of their lives. Just doesn't have the meat behind it, literally, that the fish metaphor does. That shows you very powerfully that a picture is worth what?
1,000 words.
1,000 words. That's why Proverbs are so often used.
All right, so we have a little club business, and I'm going to race through it rather than call upon some of our officers to do that. Diane is taking care of magazines, so please see Diane. She has extra Toastmasters magazines with a label on it that you can take into a doctor's office, someplace where we can just place them and people can pick them up, read them while they're waiting for whatever it is they're waiting for, and then know that we exist. Jean is looking for somebody who will take responsibility for sending a thank you to our guests after they come and see if they need anything. So please see Jean if you are willing to take on that very small but yet important role in our club. I will be sending around a survey to you about your needs as a member of our club, how the club can serve you better. And I implore you to get that survey back to me as soon as possible. You'll probably get it like early next week. And I need those back as quickly as possible so that we can actually start planning to implement some of the things that you will tell us on this survey. One of the things we've talked about, this will be mentioned in the survey, is advanced mentors. We mentor people for their first 3 speeches, but it's really important to keep getting mentored. We all can learn to be better. And if it might just be, hey, you know, I want Diane to mentor me because she's a great storyteller, and I want to improve my storytelling. I want Rick to mentor me on his humor. And it could just be a simple thing. So we're going to poll you in this survey about what you can mentor people in, if you're willing to be mentored, if you want to be mentored, and any other ideas that you have about improving your experience as a club member. This club is all about you and your progress. So, any other club business? Art?
Carol Negro is back.
All right.
Ambulatory.
Great. Very good. So we hopefully will see her maybe at the next meeting. That was fantastic.
Starting next meeting.
Great. Good news.
As you announced, that John Loris's wife passed away. John's a member of the club, and there'll be a service this Saturday at 9 a.m. In the Phoenix Rising, the former church on the corner of 3rd in Burlington, if anyone wants to attend.
9 a.m. this Saturday.
At 9 a.m.
Good. Memorial for John Loros' wife who passed on. Jean.
Just since we're in August now and we're in Smedley Award season, 5 new members between August 1st and September 30th, I'd like to everyone just be thinking, if I invite one person to come to Toastmasters a week, whether or not they come, but you extend the invitation, you just invite them to come, give yourself a little star, and I think we can get the members that we need here, because of course the meeting is what really is impressive. What do you say, Joan? Okay. So just have that in your uppermost in your mind. I want to invite somebody to Toastmasters each week, at least one person. No big deal.
Great. Very good. Let's get new members. New members add variety to our meeting, more interesting speeches, better evaluations. Again, think win-win. Be selfish. You want to get the best out of it. New members is being selfish. Any other club business? Any motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Yays? Who wants to adjourn?
Yay!
Yay! Any nays? I abstain.
Meeting